ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما يا رب العالمين. We begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, and we send peace and salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I kind of just wanted to start off with the few minutes I have with just a quick reminder and actually acknowledging that we're in the 11th day of Ramadan. Also meaning that we're going to perform our 11th fast. And, I wanted to acknowledge that because I remember just a couple weeks ago where we were all very hyped for Ramadan. We were very, the hype was generating around us. We were all very motivated. We were motivating each other, actually, our friends and families, because we knew that this Ramadan was going to be a Ramadan like no other. It was not only going to be like a very special Ramadan, because we understood that this was a Ramadan that we're going to spend in our homes. Because, with the quarantine today, that we're not going to be able to, practice our Ramadan in the masajid, or, feast with our friends and families during iftars or suhoors, where there's so much blessing in that. We're not going to be able to do all of those things. So I wanted to start off first that I wanted to acknowledge that we've went through 10 days of Ramadan, meaning we've gone through a third of our Ramadan. As crazy as it sounds, we have a little feeling inside of us now that this time is going away fast. It's going away quickly. And now you start to ask yourself that, you're starting to go, and maybe some of you are actually very motivated. But there may be some of you where now we're in the middle of Ramadan, we're starting to take a dip. We're actually starting to take a dive and starting to lose the sense of Ramadan. We're starting to lose that passion that we once had, that we were very motivated and very hyped for when we were entering Ramadan a couple weeks ago. The hype, now we feel like, oh, the hype is not there anymore. We're not as motivated like we were when we started this Ramadan. And in response to that, I would tell you that, let's motivate ourselves again. I would say something like, I'd maybe try to tell you that let's try to motivate ourselves again. Let's pick ourselves back up. Anyone would tell us that. This would be the obvious thing. This would be the thing that we resort to, that let's pick ourselves back up. Let's get ready again for Ramadan. We're in the middle of Ramadan. It's time to pick ourselves back up. But before I'd even, tell ourselves to even motivate us, let's try to take a step back first. Let's try to let's take a time into self-reflecting, a time for self-reflection. Because it's great to pick ourselves back up and motivate, ourselves that, yeah, it's time to do more for Ramadan. Since we're in the middle of Ramadan, we've gone through a third of Ramadan, and we have to pick ourselves back up. But, what is the point of all this motivation and all this, doing this if we're not going to have a sense of direction? Before we have to pick ourselves back up, we have to look back. We have to take a step back and ask ourselves some questions, self-reflect. And especially in this Ramadan, how did I spend the past 10 days? How did I spend the first third of Ramadan? With 2/3 away, what can I do now? You start to ask yourself questions that did I do things that that would please Allah, or did I do things that would really, Allah would not like? Allah is not really pleased with me when I do this. These are the questions you have to ask yourself, this time of self-reflection. Because why? Why do we have to self-reflect? Because we need to understand within ourselves, what exactly are we doing? We need to take a step back and evaluate our relationship with Allah. Because if we don't evaluate that, how are we going to move forward? How are we going to come off with the right foot and being able to progress with our relationship to Allah, and being able to, as we all say, be in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, if we won't ask ourselves if we're doing the right things, or if we're doing the wrong things, or making sure all these different things that Allah wants, or any aspects in Islam that we're doing that. These are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. And it's almost like a mini day of judgment, if you could kind of think of like that. Because on the day of judgment, we all know that we will be judged, we will be asked, we will be tested. We will be tested on the things that we spent throughout our lifetime. And before that, why don't we self-reflect? Why don't we take a time to ask ourselves the main questions, so then we can really prepare ourselves for the day of judgment? You know, I just wanted to take we're having a 2-minute ad from MCMC, um we're gonna take a 2-minute break right now.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his beloved book, and hold fast all together to the rope of Allah, and be not divided among yourselves. Ramadan is a month of worship, a month of growth, and a month where we all come together as a community. During this uncertain and stressful time, our centers may be empty, but our hearts are full. We are still connected as a community through our memories, our prayers, and our bond as brothers and sisters. This Ramadan, while we worship at home, let us continue to support the growth of our community center, MCMC. Now, more than ever, our institution needs us. It is time to come together. Support your masjid. Donate today.
Social distancing will change significantly how Muslims observe the holy month. Shut down mosques mean the faithful will no longer be able to gather together to engage in nightly prayer and to break fast at sunset. Those that rely on the food they receive at the mosque to break fast will also suffer.
Heading into work today. And it just hit me. I miss you. MCMC to me has always been my home away from home. It's the place where my love of Islam grew. It's the place that when I was at Rutgers and there was stress of work and stress of school, I could always rely on MCMC to be that place to give me a sense of peace, a sense of sukoon. And so with Ramadan coming in just a few days, it's hitting me that I miss my community more than ever. The iftars, the tarawih, the jummas, the lectures. Ramadan is a reminder of what community means, and MCMC has been the setting of that for so many reasons. So I was thinking, why shouldn't that still be the case? Why can't we make this the best Ramadan yet? Go to mcmcnj.org to learn how we'll do it. Every day, a reminder of what we stand for and an adhan to break our fast with, live on YouTube and Facebook. This Ramadan, let's have iftar together.
And just to move forward, we just talked about self-reflection, and I kind of wanted to go back to the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And actually this was one of the biggest sunnahs, this self-reflection. Even before even even before the time, even before he became the prophet, when he accepted as being the Rasul of Allah, even before that, he used to self-reflect and go retreat to the cave of Thor, and go on and reflect about his life, what's going on, and all these different experiences coming across. And especially when he became the prophet, his self-reflection took it to another level where he would, like we all would do, he would go and make sujood, long sujoods, cry during his long tahajjud. And one thing I wanted to actually bring up, uh, I was actually it's actually one night where where Aisha radiallahu an uh narrates that the Prophet ﷺ, that he was one day praying the Hajjat all night. He was crying that, the narrations was that he was crying as if his beard was really wet, that the ground where he would perform sujood was also wet. And he would do this throughout the night. And then Bilal radiallahu an, he comes, you know, in Fajr time, in the morning time, where he lets the Prophet know that it's Fajr time, and he notices that the Prophet is crying, that he's weeping, that there's tears all over his face. And Bilal radiallahu an, he asked the Prophet sallallahu, and this is something that really is beautiful. And it would actually go through our same thoughts as well, is that why is the Prophet, the Rasul of Allah, so beloved to Allah, why is he crying? Those kind of thoughts, because he was so beloved to Allah that if anything, he would be the last person to cry, if anything. And these were the same thoughts that were going through Bilal radiallahu an. And the Prophet sallallahu, he replied that there were some ayahs that were revealed to him, Surah Ali Imran, actually, from Surah Ali Imran, four ayahs where he was describing them as if that when you read them and you don't contemplate them, that it's as if you've lost everything, that you didn't understand in the bigger picture. And actually, one of those ayahs I really wanted to go into, verse 191 of Surah Ali Imran. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم, and those who remember Allah standing and sitting, and even lying down on their sides. وقياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض, and on their sides, and meditate on the creation of the heavens and the earth. And I just wanted to focus on the first part of the ayah, where Allah talks about those who really reflect on Allah, are really conscious, have that taqwa, whether it's during prayer, while standing or sitting, during sujood, or even lying down. And he's talking about that contemplation aspect. uh that contemplation aspect, he brings that up. And it's really important to realize that how essential it is, self-reflection it is, when looking at this ayah, and when looking at that one night of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was self-reflecting. It really shows that self-reflecting is not just thinking about, oh, what I did today, but what can I really take away from this? What exactly besides all the things I've done today, what exactly can I learn from this? And how does this help me get closer to Allah? How does this, in my relationship with Allah, how can this get me closer? Or if anything, how can this improve me as a better Muslim? The questions that I'm asking you right now, or as rhetorically, these are the questions we need to ask ourselves. These are the questions that we need to push ourselves to really understand. And if anything, this is one of the tips that I'll give, and then I'll end with another point. But one thing that we really need to focus on is, besides the self-reflecting aspect, is how often we should do it. And this isn't something that, especially in Ramadan, that we should do it once in a while, like maybe once in 5 days, but this is something we should do every day, constantly. And if not constantly, at least at the end of the day, before you sleep, you look throughout your day, and you look at the good things you've done, and the sins that you may have committed. And then you ask yourselves that you ask yourself, is Allah pleased with me with these different things? And then you ask yourself these questions, and by taking those will go into the self-improvement. The self-improvement you've been looking for. Remember the motivation that we've been talking about in the beginning, that we want to motivate ourselves, we want to pick ourselves back up. That comes from the self reflection that we do. And once we do that, we have that motivation to go back to Allah, to return to Allah. And so, one thing is that let's try to reflect every day on what exactly we're doing, our experiences. And besides our experiences, this is another point I wanted to add, and then I'll end, is that besides the experience that we constantly reflect from, what about the different things that we're learning? I know that there's so many series that are going on, that shuyukh and all these Islamic organizations are coming together to give us beautiful content. And we're actually, we're starting to, even maybe in this Ramadan, we're starting to pick up the Quran, we're reading it, and we're probably like trying to understand what it's saying. and this is something that I wanted to really emphasize, because it's not only it's not only coming down to reflecting on our own experiences, but what are we learning? All these series that are coming out from these different shuyukh, that yeah, they may be really good and beneficial, that oh mashallah, that this is a really good point, but we need to also reflect on that how is this important to me? How does this get me closer to Allah? Before you want to make that change, you need to ask yourself, how can you make that change? That is so essential, and that is so beloved in our religion. And this is actually the first steps to come back into our religion, to get back closer to Allah, to turn back to Allah. We want to first ask ourselves. Then we can go into these different aspects, like how self-reflection, it increases us in taqwa. How self-reflection, it increases in our ihsan, in our excellence to do things. It increases us, in our iman. All these different aspects in Islam, self-reflection is the first thing that you go to before you go into before you dive into these other aspects of Islam. So just two things that I really wanted to emphasize. Again, it's not only reflecting on your experiences, what you've gone through throughout your day, but reflecting on what you've learned and what you've been learning, and how can this get you closer to Allah, and how can you be and at least get a piece of how our beloved Prophet ﷺ was. So with that, I'll end. I ask Allah to make us amongst those who constantly self-reflect every day. I mean, and ask Allah to make us, not really get closer to Him. Not only that, but even also follow in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, and with that, I'll end. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الصلاة خير من النوم الصلاة خير من النوم ألا صلوا في بيوتكم ألا صلوا في بيوتكم لا